I don't know how long it'll take to do this, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, maybe a bit longer. But because this subject is so important to the community and to the council, I think we've got to be seen to be having that time to look at some extremely complex issues, some extremely complex legal and officer advice, and then we can do our job as an overview and scrutiny panel and make some informed decisions and recommendations to Cabinet on the basis of the information that we've seen. What I'm suggesting is what scrutiny should do. We're asking for pre-decision scrutiny, and we can see the documents, we can go through them, we can argue and discuss amongst ourselves, sometimes in closed session, sometimes in open session, and then we can come up with a series of recommendations that hopefully we'll all agree to about where this process goes, and then Cabinet will have the benefit of our wisdom to work on.
Have you written that down, Councillor? Yeah. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Seconded, Councillor Wells. Right. Can I just ask the legal officer just to? Do I do the amendment? I think it might be useful for it to be commented on.
The proposal might take it on board.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just not sure, I might have missed it, but earlier Councillor Driver also talked about wanting to see the valuation and us have the opportunity to question the authors of that, and I think that would be a useful addendum.
Councillor Driver, are you happy to add that in?
Absolutely happy to accept that.
Councillor Wells, are you happy to accept? Right. So, can I ask your comments from a legal perspective?
Chairman, yes, I'll be brief. I mean, members do have a right to look at background documents, and they do have a right to inspect things, and obviously there's an understanding, I think, generally within the chamber tonight that if they do so and they want to discuss these things, those are matters that can't take place in public, and there's an acknowledgement of that. The only comment I would really make on that, it's a matter for members to vote on the motion as put forward and accepted and amended, provided we can get it all written out in script so we understand it, is that I'm not so sure that it's going to be appropriate to bring Vincent Masons here to answer questions. That's my only comment, because I think the advice they've provided is advice that's in written form, it's perfectly able to be read and understood. We're happy to answer questions around it, but
sorry, Chairman, could I just add, I think the same would apply to the valuer.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I mean, I know it's always difficult to work out timings and so on, but I mean, I wonder whether, in the interests of making sure the public don't feel that they're being excluded, that somehow or another, maybe, the private session of overview and scrutiny could take place earlier, so that there could be an open session where we could talk about, if you like, the general thrust of that previous debate without actually giving away any of those secrets.
Yeah. Thank you, that sounds quite reasonable. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Just sort of housekeeping rules here. I mean, there is a proposal been put and it's been seconded and amended, which I think has been accepted by the proposer. The housekeeping rules as to how we're going to actually have the meetings, that seems to be not appropriate to be discussed at the moment. I think there's a proposal and a seconder on the floor. Perhaps we ought to go to the vote or debate or deal with that issue and then see where we go with that issue and then discuss and resolve the other issues that are late after that's taken place.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell, absolutely agreed. Do we want to debate? Well, we were just sort of clarifying the motion, but do you want to discuss the motion any further, members? Yes, Councillor Horwood.
That's a question. 1.5 in our report, page 1, it says Cabinet will sit in an extraordinary meeting on the 16th of October. Is there any reason that it has to be an extraordinary meeting on that date? Is there any reason why that couldn't be pushed back? Is there a thing in place why it has to be so early? Because what we would like is that to be moved back to have more discussion. Is there any reason why that date has been set? I just wanted to ask first before we, made any recommendations on moving it.
That's not a decision for me to take on my own. There is an extraordinary Cabinet meeting that evening in any event, so it doesn't need an answer tonight, I don't think. But I'll take on board what you say.
Thank you. In that case, I'd like to move the motion. Councillor Driver, could we have it? Maybe.
Chairman, through you, could I just ask Councillor Rose, is this included in Councillor Bayford's amendment? Councillor Bayford, can I ask you to just confirm your amendment?
Well, my amendment was that the panel should have sight of the valuation papers and the opportunity to question the authors of that valuation. Yeah, I mean, it as Councillor Welsh said, it mirrors the Pinsent Mason paragraph. So you could say Pinsent Mason and Stratton Parker, if that's who it is. Or Freshwaters.
Okay, I'm going to read out the proposal on the table. The Cabinet delays taking a decision on the Pleasurama negotiations until A. Members of Overview and Scrutiny Panel have been provided with copies of the relevant Pinsent Mason legal advice and given sufficient time to study this advice. B. Members of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel are given the opportunity to meet with the authors of the Pinsent Mason legal advice to ask any questions about the advice. C. Members of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel are provided with copies of the officers' report and recommendations regarding the Pleasurama development before this report and recommendations are discussed and actioned by Cabinet. D. Overview and Scrutiny Panel holds an extraordinary meeting to consider the Pinsent Mason legal advice and the officer report and recommendations. Overview and Scrutiny Panel then decides what recommendation it wishes to make to Cabinet. And E. That the panel should have sight of the valuation papers and have the opportunity to question the author. Right. What's he refers to? Well, it's in there and...
Sorry, Chairman, just housekeeping again. Councillor Driver, can you just clarify what paragraph C is meant to refer to?
I haven't got it in front of me now.
Members of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel are provided with copies of the officer's report
Yes.
and recommendations regarding the development.
Yeah, it refers to the officer's recommendations and report on the outcome of the mediation with the developer. Paragraph 1.5 in here. Because presumably there is going to be a mediation before going to Cabinet, and I'm asking you to see that as a pre-decision scrutiny.
Right, we think we've got it. Okay, members, can I then put it to the vote? All those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? So that's carried. Are there any other questions that members want to ask this evening? If not, I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you very much, members.